Hey guys, good morning and welcome back to this week's episode of What the Heck Do You Do? A weekly podcast where we highlight business owners doing unique and unusual things. This week's episode is brought to you by Holy Cow Critters and Rich Rhodes with New York Life. If you are interested in being a sponsor or coming on the show as one of our guests, you can go ahead and email me at rich.rhodes@gmail.com and we will get you all set up. But without further ado, I want to introduce my guest this week. Miss Annette Lanker with Holy Cow Critters.
Thank you for having me, Rich.
Thank you for coming on. Annette's a celebrity. I don't know if you knew that. She's been on TV in the local area a few times. So she's our local pet expert, and so she's going to give us a whole lot of knowledge and a whole lot of fun stories from what I've gathered. But why don't you kick us off, Annette, and tell us what the heck do you do?
So I have a business called Holy Cow Critters, and I basically want to be a resource for all things pet related. So I teach pet first aid and CPR classes. I do energy work with animals. I do nutritional consults. I'm kind of that person if you're looking to add a new family member to your household, a little puppy or kitten or bird or bunny, that I would like to meet with you and your family to make sure that we match you with the best possible pet for your lifestyle and the environment that you live in, so that we don't end up having somebody that you get a dog for a little bit and then it's like, oh, this dog has too much energy, and they end up back at the shelter or something like that. So we don't want that to happen. We want it to be a lifetime match for you. So I do that sort of thing. And then if somebody's just got an issue with a pet that they just need a question answered, I like to be that person they call.
Gotcha. Okay. So when it comes to putting a new pet in the home, is that about just understanding breeds versus the family's lifestyle? And
Exactly,
okay.
Yeah. So a lot of times there's some breeds that are fine if you're not home. You're working outside the home for an entire day. Whereas there are other breeds that are just going to lose their minds if they're home all day by themselves. So then we say, if that's a breed that you really want to have, for instance, then we look at things like different types of training, different daycares for the dogs, or pet sitters to come in and walk them during the day, that sort of thing, to just make sure that it is a successful match for you guys.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Yeah, I have a Dane Mastiff who's perfectly content to sleep on the couch most of the day. And then I had a yellow lab for a little while who would become destructive because I think that's exactly what you're describing.
Bored,
His energy profile is, if he's not running constantly, that's going to create that situation.
Yep, and so you come home and the shoes have all been chewed and the belts have all been eaten and the pillows off the sofa have all been chewed, and that makes you not happy with him. You're mad when you come home, but he doesn't understand why you're mad at him because he did that 5 hours ago.
Gotcha.
So that's in his past, and he doesn't even really remember that. He may look at it and go, oh my gosh, those pillows exploded.
Yeah.
He has no clue. And so you're not happy, but he's not happy either because he's bored. So we just look at different options for being able to stimulate him mentally as well as physically.
Yeah, makes sense. Cool. Yeah, we'll talk more about that. But so what got you into this world? Were you one of those kids that loved animals growing up, or?
I did. I was one of those people. I grew up in a real small rural community in Colorado, and I was the kid in town who went around with a little red wagon and grabbed everybody's puppies and kittens and kind of took them out touring for the day and brought them home and said, Mom, look, they followed me home. And she's like, no, that belongs to the Smiths. That one belongs to the Wilsons. That one belongs to the Zayners. You need to take those back. And I'm like, oh, heck, okay. And so then I'd go and return them. And people didn't panic because they knew that it was just Annette with her wagon and she was just going to play with the pets all day. And so I was kind of that early, before it was a thing, dog walker or pet sitter, because I would hang out with them all day and play with them, and they'd have little tea parties and stuff. Other girls played with dolls. I played with pets.
Okay. So what does a pet tea party look like?
Same as a doll tea party. Everybody gets their little drink. Everybody gets a little treat. They sit in the circle. You try to keep them from running away, kind of thing. A little harder than for dolls because they stay in place. But yeah, just kind of, stimulate them a little mentally and talk to them. And they would, of course, talk to me, how that is when you're a little kid. You're sure that they're talking to you. And so, yeah, just kind of fun.
That's awesome. So I'm envisioning a town where the pets are just kind of running loose and nobody has fences.
Kind of, well,
the dogs
a little
disappear
bit.
For a while. No, you're breaking into fences and.
Nope. Sometimes I opened the gates. I went and got them. I admit it.
Statute of limitations is up at this point, so don't worry about it. That's awesome. So then how did that then parlay into a professional career where you were working with animals?
So growing up, I always thought that I would be a vet. And so that was kind of where my original schooling was aimed towards doing that sort of thing. While I was in college, I got a job working as a vet tech and did that for quite a few years. What I found where I was living in Utah was that pets were kind of a disposable commodity, that they have large families, they need to have food on the table. It was not a real flourishing economic times. And so people were all kind of just living on, middle income or below. And so they weren't going to spend necessarily, $200, $300, $400 to have a dog's broken leg fixed when they can get a new puppy in the Safeway parking lot out of a box from somebody. So it got to be, for me, it was really heart-wrenching to just really realize that, oh my gosh, people didn't feel the same way that I did about pets, that they were family members. And so I looked at different ways to be able to be part of a pet community without having to be a veterinarian.
Okay.
And so I spent time working with small animals, small animal exotics like, guinea pigs and ferrets and things like that, puppies, kittens, on up to large animals with horses and cattle and sheep and things like that, harkening back to my roots working in Colorado, and then on up to the zoo because, what person doesn't want to go and hang out with the giraffes and the elephants and the lions and things like that. And so I made myself very available. I made myself very trained in all different species of animals, and then got drawn into doing energy work with animals when I had somebody, an energy practitioner, perform a session, kind of like a massage almost, with my dog that had been in an accident, and realized the difference that it made in his life. And so then I started getting trained and certified doing energy work so that I could provide that to all the different species of animals, so I'd still be able to be around everybody.
Interesting. So when you were at the zoo and you were working with these larger animals, were you actually working at the zoo? Like, what was your job title?
So I was working as a vet tech at the.
You were a formal vet tech.
Yep,
Okay.
I was a formal vet tech at the zoo. So if we needed to draw blood on an animal, because I was really small at that time, I was less threatening to some of the animals, and I was really good at drawing blood. So I'm a certified phlebotomist also on people, but I learned to draw through all sorts of hides and hair and things like that, and so I was really good at that. And so I would be drawing blood from the tigers or from the elephants and things like that. With zoo animals, they will only anesthetize them like once a year, and everybody gets something that they have to do. So somebody's in charge of trimming the nails, somebody's in charge of checking the teeth, somebody's in charge of giving them their shot, somebody's in charge of drawing blood for lab work and stuff like that. So I got to have hands-on on pretty much all the animals at the zoo, which was super cool.
That sounds super cool. I feel like people would want to hear more about that. So tell me about drawing blood from an elephant.
So I had to get up on a ladder, and you draw it from the ear.
And so is it? It's been
a way.
anesthetized.
No, the elephants, just to draw blood. Most of the animals are used to interacting with their keepers. Now that's not to say that they're not wild and unpredictable. So you have to really, be sensitive to the energy that they're giving off, but also just the little subtle signs and signals that they're giving you. So you don't want to be messing with some of the animals. But you didn't draw blood from like a tiger or a bear that's going to eat you. Elephants are fairly docile. I mean, they stand around a lot, sort of thing, and so they're amenable to having you put a ladder up next to them and crawl up there and take some blood from the ear.
And it would almost get fussy if it wasn't feeling you doing that, you would know.
Exactly. Well, and usually the keeper was at the front, but the trunk, talking to them and making sure the head doesn't move a lot. And it was not a one-person thing. There were 5 or 6 different people, petting it, talking to it, feeding it treats, sort of thing. And I'm up on the ladder with the ear, sort of thing. So yeah, it was kind of fun.
Okay, and how big is a syringe when you're drawing?
Well, it depends on what you're drawing for. Just like with people, sometimes they take 1 vial of blood, sometimes they take 20 vials of blood. So same thing with the elephant. We're running very similar tests for them as we would for you, as far as, checking the glucose and the cholesterol and the kidney function and liver function and things like that. So it just depends on what we're doing. So same size syringe, same sort of thing that we use for you, just a little bit bigger needle.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
That's super cool. That's awesome. Then let's transition back and talk more about the healing work that you do. I would say lightly familiar with Reiki in general. I understand there are 7 chakras, and I've done some bowl sessions with Dallas from our
Right.
networking group. My cousin is a Reiki practitioner, but maybe help people understand just a little bit more about exactly what it is and what that process is, and what would make an animal owner think, hey, maybe this is for my pet.
Okay, so the modality that I'm trained and certified in is called Healing Touch for Animals. There's a Healing Touch for People also, and we do have to train at least initially with people so that we know a little bit, experience what that energy work is like for ourselves, so that we understand a little bit more when we're using it with our pets. And so it's similar to Reiki. That's an easiest way because most people know what Reiki is, but it's a little bit different. And I can do it hands-on. I can do projection where I'm not touching the animal, which is what we do typically if we do like raptors or zoo animals or something that might be in a wildlife refuge or something like that. I can even do energy work with the owl up on the telephone pole if it's having some issues, that sort of thing. And some animals are not amenable to having hands-on. I can also do distance work. I have a friend whose dog has a chronic digestive issue, and I frequently she'll call me up, text me and say, hey, Potato's having some issues. Can you do a couple sessions on him? She was very hesitant at first, as I was. Somebody's like, can I come and work on your dog? And I'm like, yeah, right. Okay. And so I was kind of like, that was kind of woo-woo because I was very scientifically based, having degrees in the sciences. And this person came and did an energy session on my dog, and immediately I could tell that he was feeling better. He had been hit by a car, he had a leg amputated, and he was having phantom limb pain. And so he would whimper, he would cry, he would not want to get up or anything like that. This person came and did an hour session, and he's running around like a new dog. And I'm like, what did you just do to my dog, and how do I learn how to do that?
Okay.
It made that big of a difference for my dog. And so I did training, and I've done several different levels of training and certification. And typically for me, what I find pet parents, the ones that I typically work with more than anything else, is animals that have cancer and are undergoing chemotherapy or radiation and maybe not eating. And so we can work on balancing the overall energy fields of the animal and just balancing the whole system, just like they do with people. You do those bowl treatments or Reiki treatments to just kind of align your energy to just, because something feels just not quite right.
Sure.
Maybe you're a little tireder than normal, you don't have your normal energy, or you feel like maybe you're getting sick, but you don't really think you are, kind of thing. And so we do the same thing with the animals. So it can be for a lot of things. It can be an animal that's been in foster care and is going into a new home, and they're very anxious because they don't understand why they've gone from home to home to home. Oh, I thought the last place was my forever home,
Right.
and now I'm here. And if you've got a family maybe with kids, the kids are like, yay, a new dog, and they all,
Yanking
if
on
they're
the
like
tail,
me,
getting all
they're hugging
close,
them and being in their face, and the dogs are kind of like, no, I'm not sure what this is, and so they're a little standoffish. And so I can work with balancing their energy so that and help them kind of understand what's going on, why they are in this new home, explain to them that it's kind of their new forever home, and just get everything balanced so everything's flowing right and they just feel less anxious. We do a lot of work around like 4th of July and the holidays when they have anxiety issues, from fireworks, strange family members coming in that maybe only come once a year to visit.
Okay.
That sort of thing can cause anxiety in our pets, which can turn into destructive behavior, or it can be an aggressive behavior. Sometimes they're so nervous that they lash out and snap at somebody.
Right.
And so it's a way to just balance them and reassure them. Like you sometimes kind of have to take a deep breath and center yourself before Aunt Marge comes over because, oh my gosh, she's going to drink too much or whatever. You just kind of center yourself. That's what I help do with the animals, is that sort of thing.
Interesting. And so when you do Reiki, do you sense the negative energy, or do you just apply proper energy? I don't know if that makes sense, but
so
like, can you tell
don't usually
like
think
where?
about the negative energy specifically, but you can feel the imbalance. So sometimes it'll feel like a warmth or a cold area versus the regular body temperature. Sometimes it's, for me, sometimes it's a color, so I can kind of see auras a little bit. And so it'll be, oh, this is kind of yellow over here and it should be more green, that sort of thing. It's just kind of just a feeling sort of thing of, and just being able to be responsive and receptive to feeling the animal's energy and to understand how that works and just kind of feel where the issues are having. So I can feel, oh, this dog's got an upset stomach, or maybe this dog, it's just their heart that's bothering them. Mm-hmm. It's not a physical heart abnormality. It's, a sadness, a brokenheartedness because they've lost a family member. So our pets grieve just like we do if they lose a family member or they're transported to a new home adopted by somebody else. Yeah, there's that initial excitement getting out of the shelter, but then there's all that unknown for them. Mm-hmm. And unless somebody's really talking with them and helping them with energy to help them settle, some animals adjust really rapidly, but, think about our cats, for instance. Our cats are already kind of aloof, so it's kind of hard to tell sometimes how they're feeling, right? Because they're not necessarily the snuggly things like our dogs are in our face. They want to be with us everywhere. So how do you know if a cat's not feeling well, sort of thing. And so it's just getting to check their energy levels and just getting everything balanced with all the chakras. But you do the chakras on the animals just like you do with the people.
Yeah. That's the second time I've actually heard that this week, that cats are notoriously good about hiding because they're predatory animals. And
right.
Letting the outside world know that they're not well is a bad thing.
Makes them prey.
Right.
Yes.
And so that's interesting.
They're definitely. And they tend to be very almost antisocial sometimes. And so they want to be left alone for the most part. So by the time you realize that your cat is not feeling well, they can be very significantly sick. Yeah. So they can be in kidney failure, they can be in liver failure. You don't always necessarily notice because they can be very picky eaters. You may not notice, hey, she hasn't eaten for a week. Right. You may just think, oh, she's being kind of picky today. Or you may be a multiple cat household where the other cats are just eating more, so you don't really notice, sort of thing. Our animals, for instance, one of the things that we talk about in my pet CPR and first aid classes is that our pets are born with 4 times the amount of kidney function that they need. By the time we notice that they're having issues with their kidneys, they've lost like 75% of their kidney function. That's a lot.
I see. Okay.
And our pets overall, they live in the most polluted 25% of our environment. Everything settles down. When it rains, it brings stuff out of the environment. People use pesticides on their lawns. We have our vehicles that leak petroleum products, and they walk through all of that, and they absorb it through their pads of their feet. So it's really important to really be in tune energetically, as well as just being an observant pet owner, which can be hard for a cat that's playing hide and seek all the time with you.
Right. It's funny, I almost emailed Sadie last night to be like, can I bring my dog to the show today just to see some stuff? Because I had a feeling there were some fun things we could have tried. So maybe next time I'll have you on. We'll bring Ellie on and you can try some stuff.
There you go. She can sit up here so she can be seen by camera.
Yeah. But no, I mean that she's about yay high. Yeah, she's about 100 pounds. She's a Dane Mastiff
mix. After I said that,
so.
I was like, oh, he has a Mastiff Dane mix. She's already big.
She would sit right here and just stare off into the distance. But we have a couple of cats, and same thing. One is very friendly and likes to snuggle and purr, and then the other one tends to kind of be a loner.
Exactly.
And so that makes sense that you could easily not realize.
But you may notice the one that's really friendly, how it reacts to the other animal may give you an idea that the other animal might be sick too.
Yeah.
So just being really in tune in that. But we're very busy people. We're a busy society, so we may not notice. And it's not that you'd be a bad parent because you didn't notice. It's just we're very busy. And by the time we get home after doing our 9-to-5 jobs, then we're looking at the household stuff that needs to be done, the family stuff that needs to be done. And our minds are just going 400 different ways, that our animals are just there to kind of provide us with a positive, loving thing. Sure. It's harder for us to notice the little tiny things. Like I said, so a lot of times they get really sick. So a lot of times I get messages from people, text messages or emails or phone calls where they'll say, I think there's something going wrong with my dog. He's doing this, or this happened today at daycare. What do you think? Or I've even gotten pictures going, do you know what this is? What do you think this is? Or do you think this needs stitches? And I'm one of the people, one of my best friends is a vet, and I'll send her pictures going, do you think this needs stitches? Sort of thing. And so I do the same thing to others too, but I've got a huge resource of network. One of the things I like to do, it's how we met, was through a networking group. I like to network with other pet care professionals so that if you as a pet parent are looking for a new doggy daycare or a groomer or a vet or a dog walker or, maybe even just somebody with another, Dane Mastiff mix so you can have a play date,
Right.
try to, do some networking so that I can provide you with the names of people that I trust and would trust to have my animals spend time with.
Gotcha.
So I don't make referrals to people willy-nilly. I get people all the time going, oh, will you refer to me? And I'm like, not until I've seen you interact with the animals. I have multiple trainers that I network with, because a trainer for Dane Mastiff is going to be different than a trainer for a Chihuahua.
Right.
Versus I have Whippets. Whippets need a completely different trainer than everybody else because they're very stubborn.
Gotcha.
And so it's just matching. It's kind of almost like speed dating for animals,
Uh-huh.
where I'm matching a trainer that's going to be the best for your dog and the best for you.
Gotcha. Okay. So you just try to have as many contacts, resources, so that way everybody can start with you.
Exactly.
And then from there,
that way they
kinda
don't
like a
have
concierge type service.
Exactly. Yeah. I like to think of myself as being kind of a concierge, kind of that resource for all things pet, like I said, because it's hard to know, walking into a doggy daycare, for instance, dogs get excited when they're around other dogs. They have normal body functions, but if a dog just accidentally had an accident inside, you're going to walk in and go, oh, it smells like a dog had a problem. Whereas I can walk in and go, yeah, that's normal. Okay. Versus the underlying smell. I've been in doggy daycares, for instance, that I walked in and there's an underlying smell of just badness. It's just, they don't clean very well, obviously, because people will go in and go, oh, there's dog hair on the ground. Really? There's 100 dogs here. Yes, there's going to be dog hair. Versus I can go in and look and go, oh, they haven't really cleaned along the baseboard there for a long time. And so there's just a little bit of difference from a professional standpoint that I can go in and evaluate a little differently than you as the general public might possibly.
Interesting. Okay. That's pretty cool. Talk to us a little bit maybe about some of the nutritional consulting that you do for animals.
So I started looking around a number of years ago for just for a dog food or cat food that had not been recalled, that did not contain products from outside of the U.S. that we didn't have any regulations for. And that's not to say that some of the European countries have really, really high standards, but a lot of the other countries that are out there, they don't have anything. And so we don't necessarily have control. If we're shipping ingredients to another country and having them process our pet food, we don't know what they're putting in unless we're there standing there by their side all the time.
Right.
And not everybody can do that. So I started looking around for a company that had not had any recalls, that had all natural ingredients in their pet food, not a ton of preservatives and chemicals and stuff like that. And so I partnered with a company called Pawtree, who does all natural, holistic nutrition for our pets. And we don't look at just providing pet food or dog treats or cat treats or something like that. We look at treating the whole animal and having solutions to everything from excessive shedding to a dog that can clear the room with its flatulence, so to speak. You've got a big dog, probably have some issues with that. I know Danes can be very robust in their dietary and digestive issues.
Every once in a while you get hit with a wall of something.
Exactly.
And you hope your mouth is closed when you first breathe it in.
Exactly. See,
yeah.
and we've got products that things like probiotics that we can give, that you can add to the food on a daily basis that will help with that will help with the digestive issues. So we're about looking at the holistic, the whole pet, and looking at all of the solutions. Everything from puzzle toys that can help stimulate them mentally, fetching toys that'll stimulate them physically, as well as looking at the nutrition. And nutrition for an animal who's 6 weeks old versus an animal that's 6 years old versus an animal that's 16 years old, they all have different nutritional needs.
Of course.
And it's not necessarily about having something that's labeled as a puppy food or a senior food. It's about looking at the ingredients overall and looking at them, like I said, the whole picture. when they're older, we start looking at joint issues. But for a big dog like what you have, I would have probably had you start on joint supplements when they were probably about 1 to 2 years old, just because they're going to be really big. They're going to grow fast.
Right.
And so looking at things that are going to support them wherever they are on the spectrum of their life
Gotcha.
and that sort of thing. And I just tell people when they take my first aid classes to look at the ingredient list on their pet's food. It should read like your grocery list. It could be things like blueberries, cranberries, pomegranates, carrots, beans, just normal things that you recognize rather than tetrahydra something. And it's like, yes, I know what those things are because I have a degree in chemistry, but I don't want to put them in my pet.
Right.
Just because I eat Cheez-Its for a snack doesn't mean I want to give those to my pet.
Right.
So looking at what's in that and helping people understand, and not necessarily pushing what I sell, but looking at the food that you have and then make recommendations and say, okay, you're feeding food XYZ, it's lacking this. So you might look at adding this as a supplement, wild Alaskan salmon oil or probiotics or something like that, that will help enrich the food that you're already feeding,
Gotcha.
that sort of thing.
Okay.
And then looking at things like everybody's got milk bones and dog treats and stuff in their car. You drive through the bank or you go to the gas station and they want to give your dog a treat. Do you know what's in the food that your treat that they're trying to give you? If they really want to give a treat to my dog, I have treats they can give them, but I'm not about to let them give my dog a milk bone.
Right.
So, because the ingredients in there can be quite nasty. And a lot of times they come from outside of the country. So Paw Tree products are sourced and processed in the U.S. So we have full control. Everything's done in really small batches. So we have full control over what goes into the food and what comes out for you as a consumer. And in this day and age, it can be delivered while you're at work. It ships directly to you, so you don't have to worry about, oh, crap, I forgot to run by and get dog food today. So what do we have in the cupboard we can feed the dog tonight?
Right.
I've got to remember tomorrow. And so then you're all night long, you're not sleeping because you're trying to remember that you have to go get dog food tomorrow. This kind of eliminates that. It comes right to your door, and you get full control over when it comes and what else might come with it as far as treats or toys or anything like that.
Gotcha. Very
Yeah.
cool. What's the current stance on grain-free food? I know it became kind of all the rage for a while there. But
Right. So grain-free can be good for certain pets, but what we are finding and what the buzz in the pet world is that if they're not kept with a lot of well-balanced, that some of the healthy grains provide nutrition that our pets need. And so we're seeing animals in general, and some people say, well, it's very breed specific. Well, the studies that are out there have a wide range of varieties and include cats, which don't typically get the type of cardiomyopathy that we're seeing in long-term grain-free diets. So you really need to work with your vet. A lot of people say, oh, my dog's allergic to grains. Well, they probably aren't allergic to grains. They're probably sensitive. And so unless they've had an actual allergy testing done by a pet allergist or dermatologist, that may not be the issue. And so you may be avoiding grain because you think it makes them more itchy, whereas really what it is one of the other chemicals that's in there. That's what they're allergic to and not the grains. But if you choose to feed grain-free, I really recommend people work with their veterinarian to make sure that they've got a really well-balanced diet, that you talk with them. One of the things that Paw Tree has, we have veterinary nutritionists on staff so that we can call and talk to them if we need to and say, hey, my friend Rich has a dog. He's on this type of diet. What is he lacking in that? And they can help us make that determination if it's something that we don't know ourselves.
Gotcha.
So I don't know everything, but I have a great network of people that I can contact to ask questions.
Yeah, that's certainly the message that I got throughout this, right? Is start with you, and then you can turn around and access, whoever it is that needs to be talked to, instead of just Googling some stuff, seeing potentially mixed information,
Right.
confusing information, right? People go on WebMD and they all assume they have cancer, right?
Right,
You go
exactly.
on there and you get some very absolute answers versus understanding maybe the specific animal or specific breed.
Right,
and that type of
exactly.
stuff.
And
So,
things can, a black spot on one dog may be a Dalmatian versus a black spot on another dog maybe cancer.
Right.
So it's just knowing what's appropriate for that
Gotcha.
breed.
And so your the first aid CPR classes, do you offer those at a certain place or at a certain
So
time interval?
I offer them. Usually it's either Friday, Saturdays, or Sundays. It is typically an 8-hour class. It's very hands-on. We spend time with you, making sure that your hand position is correct, that we answer any little questions that you have, and that we make sure that you know exactly what you're doing. So we teach it through a combination of lecture, demonstration, and then hands-on. So it's a very hands-on class where you will spend time, practicing all the techniques, from stopping bleeding to doing mouth-to-mouth, to doing full-blown CPR, to what to do in case of a bee sting or a snake bite, or, we try to cover a little bit of everything in that. And I teach all up and down Western Washington. I teach up in Bellingham. I teach down into the Chehalis Centralia, Winlock area. So if there's anybody who's looking to host a class, I'm always willing to set something up with them.
Gotcha.
I just have a minimum number of students that I like to have in class, and it's a small amount. I usually like to have, 4 or 5. I don't like to have no more than 20, just because I want to be able to spend one-on-one time with each individual student and not be there for 14 hours instead of just the 8.
Gotcha. So somebody who's interested in a couple of their neighbors with pets, that would be good enough then.
Right.
To
Yeah, I've
call
had
and
people that have
organize and-
set something up in their house, and they've had a couple of their friends over. Maybe they just have doggy play dates together, or maybe they're just neighbors, like you said, that all have pets together. I'll come over and teach it in somebody's living room if they want to. But I also teach it at a variety of doggy daycares around Western Washington.
Awesome. Very cool. So if somebody's interested either in that or just more generally, they have a question or they've been wondering about something, what's the best way for them to connect with you?
So you can reach me either at my cell phone, which is 253-208-4625. You can call or text me there. You can hit me up at holycowcritters@aol.com, or you can hit me up at holycowcritters.com.
Awesome. Very cool. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
This was super fun.
Excellent. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, everybody who's been on, we tend to talk about humans, so it's fun to get a chance to talk
Exactly,
about
to talk about your other kinds of kids.
our favorite kinds of children, the furry ones, right, that don't talk back too much. So.
Or feathers or fins too.
That's right.
We don't want to
Scales
discriminate
and-
against
yeah.
the scaly kind too.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much
Thank
for
you.
coming on, Annette. And thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. Tune in next week to hear from Orlando de los Santos with Life Leadership. Otherwise, you guys have a great rest of your day, great rest of your week, and keep chasing your dreams. Thanks.